Call the March 19, 2025 Williamsburg Planning Commission meeting to order. Heather, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bowe? Mr. Hamilton?
Here.
Mr. Tarley?
Here.
Mr. Boswell?
Here.
Mr. Granger?
Here.
Ms. Liebel?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Okay, thank you. We don't have matters of special privilege today, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. There was a change or two, I think, that were made from last Friday, but are there any further corrections or edits to be made to the minutes from 2/26?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Bowe?
Abstain.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
Ms. Liebel?
Abstain.
Mr. Phillips?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to our open forum. We don't have any public hearings today or anything that's going to have a public comment period, so I'll ask anybody to come forward. Mr. Lampert, I have your speaker card, so if you'd like to come forward and address the commission.
Mr. Lambert.
Thank you. My name is Richard Lampert. My address is 349 Scotland Street, which is one block that way, so I live on Peacock Hill. I'm here to talk about the Downtown Children's Park, which I know is not on your agenda, and it's not on City Council's agenda, and the city just came out with information yesterday saying, well, it's off in the future, but Chairman Boswell was gracious enough to meet with a number of us at Peacock Hill and advise us as to how to get ahead of this, which is exactly what I am trying to do. Firstly, I spoke at City Council the other week as far as reservations about the particular thing, and I intended to come here today talking about the location of the Peacock Hill Children's Park and how it was really just a poor location for it. Nobody is against children's parks in general. Kids need a place to play. I'm a public school teacher of 27 years. I like kids. That's why I still do it. That being said, I believe that the public pasture across from the P1 Park Garage is just a really terrible place. The first reason that I brought up at the City Council meeting was essentially that living down here, we know about certain populations of people that are around at night, such as skateboarders in the P1 parking garage, such as people who use their muscle cars in the P1 parking garage, and they have a workout in there. There are college students, of course, that stay up later than everybody. There's a population of feral cats on Peacock Hill. Any of us who have dogs, and you know, the dogs get us up in the middle of the night, we hear these people, right? We hear these populations. And this particular children's park is an invitation for nocturnal activities, shall we say. You can imagine what a family might find as residue the following morning, right? The second reason, which at least to my knowledge nobody has broached yet, is that that particular stretch of North Henry Street is ground zero for the tour buses. When we first moved into 349 Scotland, which was, 16 years ago in 2009, my youngest son was 2. And at one particular point, we were sitting on the porch, and he took it into his mind to try to get away from us, and he almost ran out into the street as a CW bus was barreling down. Thank goodness he stopped. But I bring this up because there is no stop sign, there is no stoplight beyond Merchant Square and Lafayette Street. The buses just barrel down there, as do a lot of normal motorists, unless somebody pushes the new button for the crosswalk. The only place to park, if that children's park is located on Peacock Hill, the only place really to park that's of any convenience is the P1 parking garage. It is absolutely foreseeable that some, I don't know, poor little girl in pigtails and flip-flops cannot wait to get across the street and into the splash pad and therefore barrels right out into the street. Foresight being the better part of wisdom, that's really foreseeable. So those were the two topics I was going to talk about until yesterday I saw what the city released as far as public information on this. I believe it just came out yesterday on Instagram and on Facebook and on the city's website, etc. And there was a lot of information, including this rendering, which is situated on Peacock Hill. Now this resembles the one that you all were given on page 49 of the material that you received on your January 28th work session. Mr. Trevette presented you this material, and this resembles that particular rendering. But I just want to walk you through some of this. Firstly, the splash pad area is here, right? It's not a splash park, they're saying, because there are other materials, but the splash pad takes up about a third of it. The fountains themselves are in the shape of peacocks, because apparently that's appropriate, right? Anchored by a very large peacock right here in the middle, which at least based on the rendering, is about 8 times the size of a human being. Humongous peacock. Next, we continue, and we were told by a city council member that the indoor carousel was potentially going to be housed in a miniature replica of the Powder magazine, which I guess is this. Whether or not that's a tasteful idea, I will leave to you, right? But this here does not resemble, at least to my eyes, the Powder magazine in any way. This is like a really shortened, squat grain silo. That's what that appears to me. Peacock Hill is an AP1. We're not allowed to use whatever materials we want. We're not allowed to paint our exteriors whatever colors we want. We have to choose from approved historically accurate palettes. Meanwhile, what appears to be a hardscape surface down here with the play equipment is just all of these very bold, swirling primary colors, totally incongruent with the area. There are what appears to be climbing balls right here, like you would see outside of a Target, right? That's here in this park. There are various jungle gym equipments or what might be a canopy or some such thing over here. And it's, I mean, bottom line, it's a lovely park. It's got restrooms, public restrooms. They're angular, they're made of brick. It's exactly what you would see on the Virginia Beach oceanfront. But this is completely incongruent with what is supposed to be the most tasteful area of our town. This is a great park, but where it belongs is the Mall of America. Maybe this would work outside of the Atlanta Braves Stadium. This should be nowhere near the historic area, much less 1 block from Merchant Square. So I urge you going forward, as you consider this project, please consider another space. This will permanently and irreversibly change the timbre of the neighborhood. I think this is in very poor taste, just personally. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lampert. We still have an open forum. Would anyone else like to come up and address the commission on pretty much any topic? Yes, it is. Please do.
My name is Ruth Kaiser. I live at 609 Richmond Road.
Where's your sidekick?
How are you?
Where's your sidekick?
Oh, I'm not allowed anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So sidekick is sitting at home pouting. I think what bothers me the most about this proposed Peacock Park is it's so absolutely a great concept for absolutely the wrong place. What I understand about this town that I live in is that there is the restored area, and then there are a lot of areas adjacent to it, some immediately adjacent to it, but others that are a little bit more spread out around the perimeters to be a buffer to the historic area, to be a place that fends off exactly this kind of project, this kind of development that invades and intrudes on the essence of Colonial Williamsburg. And it goes back also to what Mr. Lambert was saying about architectural districts and preservation zones. And if we have done all of that for almost 100 years to ensure that the area that was restored in the 1920s and 30s remains that way to be the world's largest living museum, why? Why would that be the site that is considered for this park? That I don't see any mention of any alternative site. It would be, my humble opinion, it would be like taking my house and disregarding all of the architectural requirements to live in the 600 block of Richmond Road and deciding that I want to put pink flamingos in the front yard and I want to paint my house the same color to match those pink flamingos. And I will go and get a zoning change or a special use exception in order to do that. And if I'm fortunate, then you grant me that exception, and forever and ever, amen, my house looks completely out of step and out of character with this historic neighborhood. This park is a wonderful idea. My kids grew up, we would just go to Matty Whaley, because that was the only place where there was a jungle gym until they built Kidsburg. So I know, I understand, little kids, parks, right? Great idea. Not there, please not there. Please don't even consider there. That pasture is one of the first glimpses people get of historic colonial Williamsburg when they're coming in, is that pasture. And nothing excites a kid more than a real cow, okay? Let's be real. A carousel cannot hold a candle to a real cow. So please, when this comes up in May, end of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Anyone else like to speak during the open forum? Not seeing a stampede for the podium. I will close the open forum. We don't have consent agenda items today or public hearings, but we have one item under site plans and subdivisions, PCR 24-028. Ms. Griffin, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Chairman Boswell and members of the Planning Commission. The city has received a development plan from D.R. Horton to construct 198 single-family detached homes at 771 Quarter Path Road. This is considered Quarter Path at Williamsburg, Lot 2. It's approximately 114 acres, and the current owner is Riverside Healthcare Association. This is showing you the preliminary plan and what we call the concept plan that was approved by City Council April 14th. It should say 2005, so I apologize, it says 2025. That hasn't happened yet. So 2005, at that time, what was approved for this particular site was 95 single-family homes, 95 townhouses, and 280 condominiums. So a total of around 470 units were approved at that time. We now are reviewing a development plan, and the difference between a development plan and a concept plan is that very thing. A concept plan is just conceptual. A subdivider provides that to the city, and that process is the Planning Commission gives a recommendation, they hold a public hearing, and then it goes to City Council, and they then hold a public hearing. And this concept was approved again in 2005. Any changes to a preliminary plan or a concept plan has an option of going before myself, the Director of Planning, or the Planning Commission. And the article here is Article 6, Section 16.61 of the subdivision ordinance. It states that when a preliminary plan is required for a development plan, the Planning Commission must review the development plan to ensure that it is substantial accord with the preliminary plan approved by City Council. That plan is in my office. It was uploaded on the website, and as you can see, the 198 single-family homes is not the same as these 400 and so mixed-use housing types. So Section 1662, subsection B2, allows a subdivision administrator, in this instance Director of Planning and Coast Compliance, to decide if the changes are minor in nature. It also gives the administrator the ability to refer the matter to the Planning Commission at a regular meeting without a public hearing to determine if the changes are minor. Section 1662 then gives you the 4 criteria in which you have to determine if the development plan is either major or minor. And the first criteria is, does this change the general character of the approved preliminary plan? Does it adversely affect the development or use of adjacent properties and surrounding neighborhoods? Does the new plan increase the approved number of lots? And does the plan result in any substantial change to major external access points? In reviewing the development plan, I concluded that the new development plan does not adversely affect adjacent properties or surrounding neighborhoods. It surely does not increase the number of lots. It actually takes them down to 198, and then it changes the housing type from multifamily to only single-family detached homes, and it does not result in a substantial change to major external access points. In fact, the access points are the same. But there is a question of if the new development plan changes the general character of the approved preliminary plan. And the reason I felt that it should come to the Planning Commission is because we want to make sure that we are being transparent. I didn't think that this decision should be left up to myself. I thought it should go before the Planning Commission for your input, and because it can be ambiguous to see the just saying general character. My opinion is that the general character does not change. It still remains residential. It's actually less dense than the around 470 units, and it also does not change any of the access points to the property. I stand ready for any questions you may have, and the function of the Planning Commission today in this particular case is to determine if the development plan is in keeping with the conceptual plan, or if you feel it's a major change. If it is a major change, it would come back before the Planning Commission for a public hearing, and then it would go to the City Council for a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions for Ms. Griffin?
The conceptual plan lists a whole bunch of things that were envisioned to go on this property originally,
Yes,
and it's parsed out by acreage.
yes.
Are they proposing to use all the acreage identified in the conceptual plan for this new plan that's been put before us?
So the conceptual plan that you have here on page 2 shows all of the quarter path at Williamsburg being developed. The only thing before you today is Redoubt Ridge, the 771 quarter path. And yes, they are using all of that particular property.
So that property was originally going to be 470 units, and now they're taking it down to 198 then?
That is correct.
Same piece of land?
That is correct.
Got it, thank you.
I have a question. So when determining what the general character of the approved preliminary plan is, one thing I look at is the general character was mixed uses, mixed residential uses, not mixed use in commercial and residential. And what was proposed was less than half, actually out of 470, rough math, 1/5 single-family homes, and the remainder multifamily units.
Yes.
Doesn't that change the character?
In my opinion, I believe the character is based on whether it's residential versus whether it's multi-housing types. And that's why I think it should come before the Planning Commission, because everyone, I think, has a different definition of general character. My definition is if it's residential.
And I'm assuming that this ordinance doesn't really define.
It does not find general character.
So, if I may, it seems to me that with 470 and it was a mixed type of housing, all residential, bringing it down to 198, I don't think we're going to have the same variety of types of houses, and I don't know that it'll be economically as diverse. And I tend to think that we need to have some houses in the various spectrums of income affordability. And I don't know that reducing it from 470 to 198 gets us that. So that's one of the questions that's rolling through my mind is, have we eliminated the likelihood of somebody being able to live there in a more affordable property, or all the homes now much more expensive because they've got the same amount of land but fewer homes to make it cash flow?
Well, this property was zoned RS2 in 2005, and so the RS2 zoning allows single-family detached homes and does not allow multi-family homes or townhouses by right. And so right now, all they can do is single-family detached homes. In the staff report, it mentioned that there was, in the future, supposed to come before the city a PDR request for rezoning for a PDR, which could result in multi-housing types. That's never happened, and so the property has maintained its RS2 zoning, which can only have single-family detached, and that was done back in 2005.
And I understand that, but are we looking at single-family houses that are 1,200 square feet or 5,000 square feet? And that's where the affordability factor comes in from what I'm thinking.
Based on development plan, you would not have houses at 5,000 square feet. The lots are too small for that. They are suggesting a cluster development. There's several acres of RPA, resource protection area, and resource management area, and so they are requesting a cluster development. So the entire parcel would not be improved with houses or roads because of the sensitive environmental areas. So you would not, it doesn't lend itself to larger houses. I can't say what the price point will be, but it will not be 5,000 or even 3,000 square foot houses, based on what I have in my office now.
Okay, thank you.
What the typical lot size would be and what they say?
The average lot size is around 4,500 square feet. I think the minimum lot size that I've seen is around 4,500 square feet, and the average is around 7,500 square feet.
But even though it's a by right for this type of housing, how would that play out because they're building pursuant to the approved conceptual plan? Could they just build it without your approval?
No, they could not. The ordinance says that they can't. That's why we're here. It has to either be approved by the subdivision administrator or the planning commission to deter from the concept plan.
And if it is if it's determined to be a major change, procedurally, what happens then?
Procedurally, it comes back, to the planning commission for a public hearing for the amendment to the concept plan. You would provide a recommendation to city council. City council then has a public hearing, and they would vote on whether they approve the new concept plan for this particular property.
So if the new concept plan is not approved, then they're sitting there unable to develop this property without then seeking a zoning change to allow them to do what the original concept plan contemplated.
With that scenario, correct.
And then the city would then have the ability to say, no, we're not going to change the zoning, meaning then they would not be able to develop that land at all.
Based on how you've
We've got
based
the
on
entire
how
legal team here, so I'm
based on how
That-
you have built out that scenario, yes, that would be the case. And I doubt we would get to that point.
well, I'm just trying to think of what we could potentially be setting up as a conflict.
So it's zoned RS2. You would obviously have to approve a subdivision plan, but it's still zoned RS2. It's
Right.
also zoned RS2 with proffers, which allows the inclusion of Redoubt Park to be included in the calculation. So that zoning already exists. They can build within the required zoning.
Okay.
The concept plan is the only thing that we're dealing with today.
Today,
It's whether
yeah,
or not
yeah.
that's a sufficient deviation from the concept plan that you feel that it's appropriate for it to come back to the planning commission for approval for the change in the concept plan and then move on to city council.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what the next steps are if we say it's,
So-
if we're
so
not,
they
if we
have the
don't, if
right-
we didn't approve the new
That's right.
concept plan.
But they have the ability to develop an RS2 subdivision because that's what it's approved for now.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right.
And one last question or issue. My recollection is the Redoubt Drive is to tie into Quarter Path Road? Or
Yes.
Redoubt?
Redoubt Road.
What, if anything, does this change?
It doesn't change anything. They have to build the Redoubt Road, and then the owner, proffers, has to build a portion of Quarter Path Road to Route 60 or York Street.
That's part of this particular phase of the project?
It is a part of this particular phase, and it's required by the owner to do that.
Other questions, Ms. Bo?
I do have a question. Do you have any insight into the reasoning for their wanting to deviate from the original plan? Why would they want to only build, 200 some homes now versus almost 500 before? Is it because they don't have to go through a rezoning? Is it because, like you kind of alluded to, the pricing of the homes might be higher if they don't have to be, mixed use, if they don't have to do some condos or apartments?
We have not asked the proposed developer that question, but there is someone here for the applicant and probably could answer that question for you.
I'd love to hear it if someone from the audience can speak to kind of the intent behind the change here from the original plan.
Ryan Stevenson with AES Consulting Engineers. We're working on the project with D.R. Horton. They had a land planner lay out this layout, and it works with their products. There's 3 or 4 different product widths that they're using through here, and it's what they are able to sell, and it fits within the community and the land they had nicely, so that's what they went with.
And that was not the case before, when they originally submitted the plan 20 years ago?
They were not part of the plan 20 years ago.
Oh,
It was a new,
developer.
correct,
Gotcha.
buyer, yes.
So are you, what you've just said, is the intent of the developer to put up 3 or 4 different housing models?
That is correct, different width, yes. It's not going to be the same product throughout, it will be different, yes.
Do you have any idea whether there'd be any variation so it doesn't look just like you put up a bunch of, like, 25 each of 4 different designs?
They have thought that through.
Exterior treatments, that sort of thing?
That is correct. They are considering that, and they will try to make it that way, yes.
Okay.
I have a question for you, just for clarity. What you said, I think, was the original character of this was residential.
Yes,
Continuing character of this is residential.
yes.
That's your, got it. Thank you very much.
Legal questions?
I do not have any.
Okay, what are we thinking? Discussion time, substantial, general, favorite words, right? Legal, your comments?
Well, I think it's a substantial change because we're reducing the number of units by so much and going from a mixed residential type to single-family only. I think it's a positive change because the density will be much less and the traffic will be much less. But to me, it does feel like a substantial change.
So we're focusing on general character, major versus minor, right? The change in character.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Mr. Granger, your thoughts?
I think the market has changed over the last 20 years. I think it's residential. It's not too hard to agree with my colleague here, but it doesn't seem like a huge change to me in the character of it as it's residential. It strikes me as minor, and we've got somebody who's looking to invest and provide some housing in our community, and I think that's important. They put a lot of time and effort into it. They seem to think that this works. I don't think that it doesn't work for our community. It's residential in nature, and to that degree, I think it's not too hard to say it's a minor change.
Yeah, I think it depends on what level we're looking at character, right? We can look at character as residential, or we can look at, we can drill down and type of residential and, type of multifamily. But my thought is that it's minor. So I will ask for a motion if there's not more discussion. Not prolong this any longer, because we have major versus minor. So is there a motion? What do we have to do just to recommend or to conclude that we believe it is minor versus major? Is that how
Yes,
we
there would
word
be a
this?
motion and a second and a vote on whether you agree that it is minor in nature and can move forward to site plan review.
Okay. Is there a motion to agree with staff that this proposed change is minor in nature, and that it can then move forward?
I so move.
I second.
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Charlie?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
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 Mr. Phillips?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Glad that was unanimous. It helps city council figure out what to do when and staff what to do. So unfinished business, we have our CIP letter. There were some changes that were made to the draft that was originally posted online. Are there any questions or issues about the draft that is currently posted online? Okay, hearing none.
Then I'll be happy when some of these items move off the CIP.
Isn't that the truth? That is true. Well, we have seen some. We have seen some move, so we know there's progress. Is there a motion then to approve the CIP letter as drafted?
I so move.
Second?
Ms. Bowe?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Moving forward to commissioner reports, it's been a while since we reminded the public, at least through our minutes and our vast TV audience, that we do a lot more as commissioners than just these meetings. Ms. Liebel, you serve on the Architectural Review Board as our representative.
Yes.
Anything exciting going on?
Well, Ms. Griffin does a wonderful job of capturing all of the issues that have been before the ARB, so I won't belabor those. But one thing I will say is that the revised guidelines have really helped staff, help applicants to focus on staying within the guidelines. The issue of changing the categorization of properties to contributing and non-contributing has made it a lot easier for the ARB to rule on specific changes to homes. And so I think it's been positive. Not everybody listens to staff when they advise them, but it makes it easier for everybody to focus on what do the guidelines say. And it's been very helpful for us.
That's great. I know when I served on the ARB, that was one of the big concerns that we had, that people were coming in and just, they felt like the city was just against them, and so making it easier for homeowners is critically important. Mr. Tarley, you serve on the EDA as our rep.
Yeah, a couple points to discuss. One, years ago, the EDA funded Downtown Advisory Committee. It's comprised of some of the merchants. So there was a report at the last meeting on the things that they're doing, including things like helping with the Wi-Fi for farmers market. They brought the Santa to Merchant Square, and so it's they're gaining traction and helping the merchants and coming up with projects to bring people downtown to enjoy the merchants who are in that area. Secondarily, there was, as you may know, you would know because we approved it, the SUP for the Wells Fargo building, and the owners came to the EDA for a grant to do the demolition of the exterior of the building. And so the EDA has funds set aside, and I think this was the rest of the funds that they had available at the time in order to help help the owners with the demolition of the outside. And the conceptual plan of the outside of the building is much more attractive. Those two items.
Super. Thank you for doing that. Mr. Hamilton, anything from the Public Arts Council?
So the current issue on the table with the Arts Council is we are in the final steps of selecting a poet laureate for Williamsburg. We had 4 applicants and narrowed it down to 2. They're both really interesting people. They come at poetry from entirely different directions, almost like a generational change. And we're supposed to make a recommendation about who to go forward with at the end of this month.
And since you're a nuclear engineer, your expertise is invaluable, I'm sure.
Knocking it out of the park.
Mr. Granger, you're on the TDGRC, but I believe they're not active this.
We have not had a meeting
this cycle.
Soon enough to report on.
Okay, that's what I understand. Okay, thank you all for all that hard work. I know it's a nuisance, especially showing up twice a month for that. But it's all good work. We have a couple of public hearings scheduled for April, I guess, kind of on the same issues about storage sheds. at James Lurie Middle and Berkeley. Anything else that we need to talk about today for
Chairman Boswell,
order? Yes, ma'am.
I will say, these were placed here preliminarily. We were not sure if they will move forward, so we'll let you all know through email correspondence if they will.
Okay, super. All right, thank you all. We're adjourned.